would now move on, and we would go to the second topic that we would be discussing, and we would have Mr. Mohammed Jagana as the presenter.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I was in Abidjan to attend a regional summit. So when you go for the summit, they attach you a driver, hotel. So I told the driver, look, I want to go out and eat local food. He took me to this nice posh restaurant. I said, my friend, look, come. Can you afford to eat here? He said, no. I said, I want to go and eat what the Ivorians would eat. So he was a little bit uncomfortable because my title was the president of the Chamber of Commerce, blah, blah, blah. I said, look, come. So I took out my phone and Googled Achake. So on TripAdvisor, they recommended Cocody Market. I'm not sure how many of you have been to Abidjan, but Cocody Market is the local market. So I told the driver in my French, as my kids would say, Français Chokuchaka, est-ce que je vous vois à Cocody Market pour manger Acheke? He was like, pardon, Cocody Market. I said, my friend, forget it. My French is not good, but I want to go to Cocody Market. So we went to Cocody Market, sat down, ordered Acheke and Aloko, nice fish, both of us. It was nice. I said, how is this? He said, it's fantastic. I told him, look, this is what I call local content. Globally, when we talk about local content, people tend to focus on oil and gas, multi-million-dollar investments, multi-billion-dollar projects. But then local content could be looked in the contribution in how indigenous capacity, wealth is created. And it cannot be created without a policy framework that would include the small, medium-sized women and youth businesses. Because when we talk about local content, we talk about the oil drilling, the gas, the highway, the major, projects that come into a country. But what about digital economy? How can we frame our policy to make sure that local content would embed youth businesses that are in fashion, education, sports, using technology to sell their products? I have an interesting quote about wealth, and I want to connect it to local content. Wealth is created and carried by ideas and relationships more than transactions. So the idea today is, how do we develop a local content policy that would factor the big investments that are coming in, that would factor the small, medium size, the youth businesses Halimas talked about, making sure that indigenous participation is factored into it. I know some of the policies are a little bit challenging, but I think positions like this would allow us to debate it, to help us reform government's idea of what we need to understand about local content. And I'm glad that the Secretary General is being represented here. It's the highest office in terms of the civil servants, to carry our message back to the government. We've seen what Mustafa has done with his projects. Quite a lot of us follow him because of the little young businesses he tried to groom out of his projects. I'm not sure whether I'm allowed to talk about this, but I chat with TAF a lot. And the example I use about local content is Mustafa Jigo. Jigo was started by being subcontracted by TAF. But today, he's also built an enterprise that is good enough to compete internationally and locally and build great projects in Gambia and beyond. So these are the essence we need when we talk about local content. Papa Yusunjai is a local content. But today, he's doing business outside the Gambia and beyond our borders. So when we talk about local content, we need to look at how do we strengthen the capacity of indigenous businesses so that they can compete at an equal playing field. Foreign direct investment is interesting, but then how do we make sure that when that foreign direct investment comes in, a local component or made in the Gambia is factored into it? And by the way, for all of you that are here, the Women Leadership Forum, in partnership with Chamber of Commerce, are going to organize a forum. Is it 29th? 29th at Paradise Suites, and they're going to be talking about Made in Gambia. So I look forward to seeing you there, and let's continue the discussion. Thank you.
Key to his word, 5 minutes, I was timing. I think quite important and pertinent points in terms of the distinction as to what local content is and what we need to do to help grow and improve our local content. He's given us two examples really that I think pretty much just, puts the icing on the cake as long as this topic is concerned. We would want to take contributions, questions, and then, of course, Jagana would note them down as we go, and ultimately we'll give him the last word in terms of this topic. So, Mike, we'll start with Kebe. On that row, we have Kebe, and after Kebe, the lady against the wall.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Usman Kebe. I work with the Gambia Tourism Board. Mr. Jagana, thank you very much. When you talk about local content, I just want to refer the participants to, in 2006, there was a policy document called the Tourism Master Plan document. And in this Tourism Master Plan document, there is a portion that talks about leakage. And at the time the Tourism Master Plan document was formulated, $348 million is equivalent to $12 million was in leakage when it comes to vegetables and other local content that we can produce. But the productivity, that's one, the quality, that's two, and the regular supply of these food products, like you had a wonderful breakfast at Senegambia, and they need this kind of stuff. They cannot wait for a supplier who would say, oh, I only have about 2 tons of Irish potato, so I will bring the other 2 tons next week. No, you can't do that when you have guests. So I just want to bring to the attention of all Gambians here that we want to invite local investors to come on board, because I think this is a productive sector where this leakage could come inwards rather than outbound. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll take the lady. Can I just pass it to the lady?
Good morning, all. My name is Joy from the University of the Gambia, and I also just recently started a small business called Mega Key Marketing. And what I'm about to do is just a contribution. In terms of local content, I listened to Mr. Taff and Mr. Jagana talk about local content. And what I've realized, having been in the University of the Gambia, is that most of us are not given the opportunity to actually know about the Gambia business status quo. What we are taught in school is usually international business. And I feel in order to achieve all of this mentioned by the two speakers is to inculcate this to our models in the university. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ismaila Sambu. I am the president of the Gambia Youth Chamber of Commerce. First of all, I would like to thank the Honorable President, Mr. Jagana, and Uncle Taff. Personally, I came here to listen to what is going on within the business environment, listening from elders to know how to do it and what to do best. Moving further, during the speech, I have heard that the National Business Council have been created, which the Honorable Benjamin Roberts have said that the President has been involved, 5 ministers, 5 members of the private sector, but there is no youth representation. So, in accordance to what he said, the youthful representation is not there. So I'm seeking for an answer if there is a youthful representation. Thank you very much.
Yes, Diligence again, FJP. Local content is a double-edged sword. And the reason why I say that is that your local content, when it goes to another country, is a foreign content. So it's very important to actually define the boundaries within which you measure local content. Otherwise, you have a self-defeating exercise, right? Local content, when it's not measured properly, becomes protectionism. And protectionism leads to everybody losing, right? Now, in the world we live in now, I'm sure you've heard of Make America Great Again. That is basically local content policy. It is protectionism, right? The best way to do protection these days is not on individual country basis, it's on trading blocks, right? So for example, when Britain is trying to leave the EU now, one of the reasons why they've had to sign the deal they're doing now is because if the car industry is taken out of Europe, Europe's local content is EU-wide, and therefore they will not be able to export cars into the EU. So that's why they're having to sign the deal they're doing now to make sure they don't fall out of the EU's trading bloc. We have to have a West African trading bloc. We are much weaker when we think in terms of our small countries, right? Local content should be based West Africa-wide. When we negotiate trade policies, we negotiate on small country basis. The EU negotiates 27 countries against our individual country. Look, even Britain cannot negotiate a trading policy against the EU, let alone Gambia. So we need to stop thinking inward and start thinking globally. The global way now is trading blocks. So local content policy should be defined, and we need to get these regional blocks sorted out so that we actually have something that makes sense when we're thinking globally. Right? Otherwise, really, it's a losing game, because one TAF, if local content is applied by everybody, when TAF goes to Nigeria, he'll become foreign content, and he will not be able to do anything.
My name is Aida Chamjai, Yaboy Home Cooking. I am well known and supported outside the Gambia than in my own country. And with what I'm doing, I'm also contributing to the socio-economic of the country. And in March, I met somebody in my home cooking, and she was so inspired on what I'm doing, and she said that she wanted to help me. Now, just a few weeks ago, she brought about 6 women from England to come and help 6 women in the Gambia here. And it was so good that they've already planned to come back in April again. And thanks to GCCI, because I went to Aliu, she gave me a room where we launched the project. And I wrote to Gaipa, nobody answered. Nobody replied my letter. But due to my contacts, I contacted Drame, who came and supported me. And I think that the government should be proactive on those things, because I did everything by myself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, moderator. For me, I believe it is very important for government to have a policy to support local content. If you look at Senegal, most of the investment, almost all investment, foreign investments in Senegal, the private sector or the local, they contribute to those projects. Where they have the local participation or the expertise, they must be given the opportunity to do it. That's the only way. We have had in the past where even some of our projects to support capacity building and so forth, 99% of the money goes out. What happens? They bring consultants who come and do the consultancy. They bring people who will do the training. You know, everything comes from outside. I have attended trainings where Gambians can do the training. And most of those foreign consultants, I mean, if you look at them, I've met some of them, they didn't come up with anything that they know about this country. They come to, they go around to stakeholders, get the information, and come and submit it to government. So we have a lot of expertise, we have the human resources. I think it's high time that it is in our policy to support local content. In Senegal now, the private sector is building roads, bridges. A lot of things are done by Senegalese. I saw President Macky Sall recently when he was inaugurating the first export of gold. Senegal is producing gold now. And I saw him say that that company is a British company, should employ the people within the area, train them, and make sure that the area benefits from that industry. So I think this is the thing that we need, that the high office will make sure that local businesses benefit. We have the OIC projects. Whatever a Gambian can do should be given to Gambian. If we don't have the capacity, then you can import this thing. I think this also can only be done when we have the policy document, so that people on top will know that whatever comes, we have to engage Gambians and make sure that they benefit from it. This is the only way we can also benefit from investments and also be able to support each other. Thank you.
Mr. Tuff.
Thank you.
The gentleman over there would be the last one.
Just a quick contribution, because it's quite an interesting topic. And again, when you talk about local content, I don't think we should generalize here, because at times there are major challenges trying to include local content within our businesses. I think that in a country like us, there are opportunities. And I would like to focus on probably the agribusiness and the value chain. let's look, for example, at the tourism sector. I mean, we do know, or we've heard, that there are about 150,000 tourists or visitors into the country. I would like to see, I mean, something done that at least what is consumed by these tourists is done locally. That's what I would like to see. But then now we have to go into details. How do we get it done? And going down that line, we do face challenges. We must ask ourselves, why is it that we're importing vegetables that are cultivated in Senegal? Major challenges. Being done by Senegalese and then exported into the Gambia. I don't have the answers, but these are some of the things that we need to probably, ask ourselves those questions. Why is it that these things are happening? Very simple things like agriculture, We have some few success stories, for example, like the Tropingo Foods from Momar, who is now exporting actually to other countries. So the issue of local content is very dicey. Mr. Juve, you mentioned about consultants and foreign consultants coming in. But let's also take note that there are Gambians who are also consultants in other countries. And FJP, you must allude to that you do consultancy outside. So we're living in a very competitive world. The issue is about competence. And we must develop ourselves so that we can compete at, if not the regional level, but at the global level. Then we will do better adding local content into whatever happens in our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Give it to the gentleman over there. Then the one by the picture would have the last one.
Good morning. My name is Jebel Sise. I'm the program officer at the Gambia Press Union. And I just wanted to talk on 3 important points. One is we talk about the policy formulation, and then the challenge of having those policies implemented. I think that is a big problem in our country. We do have a lot of beautiful policies. When implemented, would have solved a lot of the problems that those policies were, intended to solve. But implementation becomes a challenge in this country. But how do we change that thing? I have seen a lack of proper monitoring and evaluation mechanisms in this country, because when the policies are drafted and submitted, whether it's a government policy paper, cabinet policy paper, whatever, you drafted the policies and submitted to them, and then it is lying down there, but you do not have a proper evaluation, M&E monitoring system to make sure that you follow up to those things. Those policies might never be implemented, or it may take time. I think what the businesses also need to do is, aside all these things, they need to have a very proactive M&E system to make sure that it will help them. The second thing has to do with technology. I just came to know from the trainings that we have at the press that most local businesses are still, hinged on this traditional way of doing business. But how do we use the digital age technology to make sure that we leverage the opportunities that the business environment give to us? The third one is unionization. I'm not sure if, because in the Gambia, what I have seen here, everybody wants to do things on their own. But how do we unionize, especially as the businesses? How do we form a union that we can all come on board, and that will better help us to strengthen our opportunities, deal with our weaknesses, and of course, even increase our lobbying and advocacy strategies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good morning. My name is Bernard Mendy, and I work with the International Monetary Fund. Thank you very much for the various contributions. Mine, I'm not speaking on behalf of my employers, but this is an individual opinion as a Gambian. I think if you look squarely at the problem that we have in trying to grow local content within this country, I would see at least 2 major areas where this thing is emanating from. One, I don't know, but it looks to me like it's cultural. A Gambian is very much proud to say that Mangedem Senegal, Sisuma Nyaukat bi. When you have 10,000 tailors surrounding him or her who are even better competent, yet still You do not only go and buy the fabric at a more expensive price, pay fare, take the risk of transportation, you are not even sure whether you are coming back or not. Yet still, you pride that more than your colleagues, that is your next door neighbor sitting by you. So for me, it looks very much like cultural. People will leave their vegetables at the Serekunda market, getting rotting, but they will hire a vehicle, cross to Senegal, and go and buy vegetables to come here. So I do feel that some of these things are cultural, that we must pride and value that which we have in our own country before we look at what others have outside. And it can be far-fetched. I had the contribution regarding supplying to the tourism sector. You do not necessarily have to have somebody, a supplier in the Gambia, supplying everything that you need regularly. You need to have a chain of suppliers. If Samba cannot supply you today, Kumba would be ready to supply. Fanta would be ready to supply. At least you would have varied sources of your supply to be assured. And I'm sure if we do that, let's say like in the case of X, if you depend on only a single source in the Gambia, of course, our wherewithal or the wherewithal of a single individual would not definitely meet your demand. But if you have 4, 5, 6 of them within your supply chain, I'm sure they will, rather than you wait for X to come from Holland. That's not going to help our economy in any way. And after all, it's going to increase exchange rate pressure on us. And let me tell you, if we sit as individuals and we wait for government to solve this problem for us, we will sit ad infinitum without the problem being solved. Because governments in Africa are not very much known for solving problems. They are known for telling us what our problems are. And we have had enough of that. We should take deliberate attempts as individuals to work out our problem. And I tell you, from what Mr. Jagana said, that's where the solution lies. I am going to eat that which is made in the Gambia. And for your information, you can hardly find me in hotels except where you have functions like this one. I don't mind driving my car, stand at somebody selling bahal along the highway. I stand there, buy my bahal, eat and go my way. That's local content.
Thank you.
Since I started with food, I'll close my remarks with food. Not that I'm Giant or Jobian or Cha. No, actually, I was in Nigeria and I was talking to some friends regarding jollof rice. So I took out a photo of Ida when she was in Nigeria with the Gambia Tourism and the beautiful presentation she did with the jollof rice. I told them that you can have fake news, but this is the original jollof rice. Coming back to the points raised, I think they're very valid, and I'm not sure whether we'll have enough time to discuss all of these things. But in my own perspective, when I talk about local content, I'm talking about the minimum contribution indigenous participation can get involved in internal projects. Globally, we're part of a global village, and we expect to compete at a certain level. But somehow, we need to be able to design our policies and frameworks to make Gambia competitive. Some of it might be because of the projects or how government implements certain things. For example, my favorite example about lack of coherence between the private sector and the public sector is the design of the GCAP CEO? GCAP. It was a World Bank project. If you're involved in agriculture, they'll pay a consultant to come and tell you how to grow better tomatoes. But they will not help you have a borehole or a greenhouse that would make you produce better quality tomatoes. So I'm like, look, what is the purpose? You're giving me money for an international firm to come and tell me to grow better tomatoes for tourists in Gambia, you need to do X, Y, Z. But you will not help me build the capacity, build the local content, so that I can have my own greenhouse, so that I can deliver the quality food that is needed in the tourism sector, so that the $12 million leakage Kebe talked about would be sorted. Regarding the National Business Council, Ismaila, yes, we have one stone that kills two birds. We have Umi Sise there representing not only the women but also the youth entrepreneurs. I think she's one of the youngest people on the National Business Council. I think also is it Joy from the University of Gambia? mentioned something that is very important. It's our story. Let's narrate it. If I'm going to talk about my story, I'm better off to tell you what I'm doing. But if somebody else is narrating another story that nobody understands, then the Gambian business is not being well represented. And I think that's one of the challenges we have. We do not talk about our local indigenous entrepreneurs. So our stories are not being told. So we need to create the narration. So I think because of time, we cannot get all these points sorted. But I'll stop there, and I thank you all for coming since we're running out of time, and we'll move on to the next session. Thank you.